Good evening and welcome. It is Monday Night Football, Soweto TV. We are Bande Kohli, but we're going to warm things up this evening. We are almost like, the Mokhoru Mondays of football journalism and television. You're watching us. The only difference is we'll still be around next week. Abo Mokhoru Monday angazi ngoba Cyril's going to speak to us at the family meeting later. So we'll find out what that happens. Or that actually could be now. Yeah. But anyway, you've made the right decision in joining us. The name is Kamza Mbatha, and I'm joined by my esteemed panel that is made up of Velile Mnyandu, award-winning journalist.
Downs favorite.
I'm coming to the Downs favorite. Shuaib Walters, the man with the mathematician plan. And Mazola, I don't know why I hate you, but I hate you anyway, said someone on Twitter, Molefe. Have I got it right, gents? Have I got it right? Okay. Before we get into the jokes, though, on a serious note, folks, just barely a month since we've lost Anele Ngonga, we are now, unfortunately, having to reflect on the loss of Motjeka Madisha, who passed away at the weekend. Now, in a strange sense of irony, him and Anele apparently used to board together when the two players would go away on camp with the rest of the team, and now he's suffered a similar fate. We'd like to take this opportunity as front runner and of course all our colleagues at Soweto TV to extend our condolences to his family, his friends, and the greater Masandawana nation at large, even though there's some of you who don't want my condolences, whatever that means. So we send our condolences with that message there. Gents, let me turn to you. Velile, so soon after Anele passing, we lose yet another classy player who was, unlike Anele, who had a great storied career. Motjeka was writing his chapter, and what a strong start he had made to being a stalwart at that club and a stalwart in defense for South Africa.
Well, another sad loss comes away, have to say. I mean, I remember this boy, Motjeka, coming up. I think it was in 2013, the end of 2013. I think a few months before that, even before 2013, he was part of an under-17 team that had gone to Zambia to play in the Southern African Games there. If you remember the games which introduced Akani Simbine, where he ran, I think it was at a 10-1-7 in athletics, and this was the team. And in that team, it was the likes of Fakhri Lakay, it was the likes of Rivaldo Kutsier, it was Ayamal Kwaka, now Kongobe, and he was part of that team. Jody February was also there. And then they came back, and the team then won the COSAFA Under-20, and SAFA titled them Maseru to Moscow, So, and I remember at some stage, he even led a team that went to win the Commonwealth Games in Russia, And this was the rise of Madisha. But I think one of a clear picture for me was when he captained a Sundowns under-19 team that was coached by Rulani Mokoena at the Bay Hill tournament. And playing on the opposite side, in that Ajax team was Rivaldo captaining the team, but Rivaldo also already playing in the PSR, So there's always been this rise of Madisha, and going now to when he made his national, in fact, his first team debut, because very few players, and when we talk about this, would count their debut being in a CAF Champions League group stages matches, and this is what happened with him when they lost against Enyimba in Nigeria. But by that time, Sundowns, it was just a ceremonious game because they had already qualified for the semi-final at the time, because there were no quarterfinals at the time. And when we were in Alexandria in 2016. He was part of that historic team of Sundowns, which won the CAF Champions League. And there's been that rise now, the protection from Coach Pitso as well, having given him his debut. And the leadership qualities were always there as well. Most people were always referring him to as a future Sundowns captain. He's won the captaincy armband on a few occasions at Sundowns, even at Bafana. You could see now Coach Molefe was also starting to introduce him, So what I can say that, already this season, he was already sitting on 6 matches in all competitions. So it tells you where he was in terms of progression.
Sure.
At the age of 25, having been playing pro football for 4 years, the boy was progressing nicely in international football space. So it's a sad loss. It's a huge loss for football in the country, not just for Sundowns. And I feel for the youngsters at Sundowns.
Sure.
I feel for those boys, especially who come from the academy, because they were learning a lot from him and they were counting a lot on him.
On that note, because, you know, obviously there's a lot of hurt in Kloorkop and in South African football in general, Mazola, then we hear that the request for, you know, Sundowns' games to kind of be pushed out so the club can mourn is then denied by the league. What do you make of that?
It's harsh. Seems almost heartless and distant from the league's point of view. You know. So this morning, you know, one of my stories that I was working on was to find out whether the game would be postponed or not, which, you know, to me, thinking it's a no-brainer that the game would be postponed. So I started asking around, found out that actually the league had rejected Sundowns' request to have the fixture moved to a later date. Then I got hold of the letter from the PSL to Sundowns in which they state a couple of reasons, one of them being the submission, a written submission for the request 10 days prior to the actual date, which obviously that we shouldn't even be discussing that because that does not apply here because Madisha died just yesterday.
Sunday,
we found out on Sunday morning that he had died in that car crash. And then there's, you know, which to me feels like to appease the sponsors, to say the sponsors have been promised you know, almost a fixture list or a fixture schedule that is not open to, you know, any sort of you know, rejigging or adjustments or what have you, you know. So they've made a commitment to their commercial partners that, especially now during COVID with congested fixture list, that they would not play around with the fixture list, and that only fixtures that are, you know, under exceptional circumstances. For me, this qualifies as an exceptional circumstance. How do you, do you expect in the players and the playing staff and the coaching staff and the non-playing staff will go to this TX Galaxy game in the right frame of mind after losing, you know, not just one of their players, but a key member of that squad who was killed in such a tragic way, you know? I mean, there have been videos and images circulating on social media. No doubt some of the people involved at Sundowns and his family members would have seen those. And to take it to become even more disturbing. And then you expect them to run onto the pitch to play a game of football, you know? So, look, I think even Coach Rulani reacted to my story as well on social media, just emotions boiling over, and you could see just from their reaction on the story alone. So I don't know, as I'm talking to you now, Kamza, I'm hoping someone higher up at the league,
sanity prevails.
you know, sanity prevails, and someone, you know, maybe the
even as a sponsor, you don't want that.
Yeah, maybe exactly, because now it's reflecting bad. Exactly.
And also, you see, PSL is one of those industries which are proudly black. You know. And we know what this means in the black community, you know, in even in our culture, you know. So and this is at the time when institutions like the PSL have to give hope to our communities, you know, and especially something like this happened. The club has just buried a player last week, and then something like this happens, you know. So here, and also some precedents has been set before. We can count the Sisilolo, we can count a number of, you know.
Janji just last year.
Yes.
Two games of postponed.
Exactly. In fact, for Senzo, the entire league program stopped.
Right.
You understand? So here, I think football fans, in fact, not just football fans, South Africans in general, even those who are not really involved in football, they are just asking for understanding.
For sure.
As I had said, that Madisha was also more inclined to the young players at Sundowns. Madisha is a product of the Sundowns Academy. You understand? And I would imagine that this, and especially we saw the videos of the car burning. Some of these players were saying they must go and play now. These young players, they must go and play with all those images. It doesn't make sense.
No, you're right. And I think Pindolo on Twitter kind of has the same sentiment. It says, when the machine is too big to fail, people's lives become cheap. It's sad to see what the official PSL is doing to the Sundowns and Madisha family. Shuaib, I mean, the sentiment seems to suggest that we almost need to codify this in some sort of ruling or set of rules to say, should someone in the squad or your technical team pass, there should be some sort of dispensation to say, okay, we can push out your game. But someone's pointing out that, you know, it seems like commercial interests, and like Mazola pointed out, commercial interests seem to come first.
Yeah, I think what, first of all, my condolences to the Madisha family, his friends and family. I think what we should first and foremost look at is which lives matter. Is that what we're asking now? Because with certain lives, when we have a passing, we then can have mourning periods, and with others we can't. And I think that is why we should have a written rule where if there is a passing of a technical member or one of the playing staff, you should be able to mourn that. They say an exceptional case. This is an exceptional case. Bottom line.
100%.
And sorry, I think what is most important here is that we could potentially get the sponsors to come out and say, you know what, let's
on our we'll lead the charge.
We will lead the charge, because it's not going to be in a good light to the public that the sponsors are rejecting. The time to mourn. And I think that is where they could step in and also say, you know what, no, it's we should have this rule where we can allow.
Yeah, and I'm also not convinced that the program cannot accommodate.
There's no telecom knockout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And if you notice, in terms of the featuring system,
Yeah.
there have been weeks where the midweek is free.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So, in fact, Sundowns
There's plenty of leg room.
Sundowns
There's plenty of,
because
yeah.
Sundowns is used to playing in tight programs.
Yes.
You know? So,
Yes.
because they are the ones who would have requested this postponement,
Yeah.
there is a time where they would fit in this. So, but for me, this one is even beyond the actual issue of fixtures.
Yeah.
Spirit of Ubuntu.
You're Veza.
You know, it's a spirit of Ubuntu. Because now we must think about the families.
Sure.
You know, they play football, but also their families allow them to play football because they think that this is the sporting code which unites the nation.
Sure.
But right now, the response of the league, it's dividing the nation.
For sure, I agree. Just to let you guys know that there has been a statement that has come out as far as Mamelodi Sundowns are concerned. And just to read you some of the parts, the family of Mamelodi Sundowns defender Motjeka Madisha met with the pathologists early this morning to establish that the person who passed away in a car crash late this past Saturday night on 12 December is indeed their son. The nature of the horrific crash that took place on the Zierfontein Road near Kloorkop requires that all processes be followed by the necessary authorities with relevant expertise to confirm the identity of the driver. The Madisha family requests privacy and the relevant protocols be followed during this difficult period of uncertainty. Mamelodi Sundowns will communicate further details after consultation with the Madisha family once the DNA test results have been released. That is a statement that's just come out from Mamelodi Sundowns. We continue here with Monday Night Football on Soweto TV after this. Welcome back. It is Monday Night Football on Soweto TV as we take this time now to reflect on the big final that happened at the weekend. It was the MTN8 Wafa Wafa. And finally, after almost a 10-year wait, Orlando Pirates now have some silverware to get things going this season. But this is pretty much now, he has to keep this up because we spoke about how all the investment, all this time, and the quality of players, you know, they were due something. It happened at the weekend, but I guess in essence the work is only starting now because people are already speaking about trebles and whatnot. Your reflections on that final?
No, I think this definitely buys Zimbabwe time. More than anything, because we know that the Confed Cup is a tough ask. You know, he's not the club in itself might have been there before, used to it, but the coach he's not, you know, he's not. I don't necessarily think he's ready for what's to come. You know?
Right.
So maybe I'm not too sure of the expectations as far as the CAF inter-club competition is concerned. But definitely they'll be looking at the league now, thinking we can go all the way. You know, I think this buys him time, even if maybe he doesn't get the Nedbank Cup. I think the big prize is obviously the championship, and they'll be feeling confident. You know, a bit lucky. Obviously, because Celtic started well until obviously the penalty moment as well, which we debated quite a bit on social media on Saturday night with you know, esteemed former referee Jerome Damon also coming on board to clarify certain issues. But I still say,
What was his clarification?
so obviously that he
it
kept
looked-
dragging him. Yes, you kept dragging him, and you make a decision, as we can see from there. You make a decision where the foul ended, not where it started. But that's open to interpretation for me, because it looks like he's not really dragging him. It almost feels like it's a shove at the back. And
But the
player,
hand is still there.
The player drags himself onto. But this is what I love about football.
The hand is still there. And I think the laws of the game are very clear on this.
Yeah.
You know, I still feel this is open to interpretation.
Did he start falling outside of the box or in the box?
But as they enter the box, the hand is still there.
But is it not about where the player goes
where
down?
the contact was.
Where was the contact? Was it not
Contact
outside
was
the
The
box?
contact was outside, but
But I'm saying
yeah.
it started from outside.
The
But
law
also
says
if
it's where it's finished because
I
he's dragging him.
think we must read the rule.
Yeah.
We must read the rule properly, and then we can argue. Because this one is not just based on the interpretation. There's a rule that's written, and then we must read the rule versus what happened in this case.
So according to you, the call was correct?
It was correct.
There's the hand there. Oh, I still don't know. I still don't
Shuaib?
know.
No, for me, this is the lovely thing about South African football. We don't have VAR to intervene and to help us out, and the ref to go get a. It's a very difficult one, and you know, it's not as clear cut as all the other decisions that has been made. So you can't really blame the ref or the linesman. I think this is probably where VAR would be perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the perfect scenario for a VAR situation.
So law 12 on fouls and misconducts. There is start of play.
Yeah.
If a defender starts holding an attacker outside the penalty area, but continues holding inside the penalty area, the referee shall award a penalty kick.
I hear you.
I mean, we're not disputing that.
Although the
I mean,
rule states
that's not what we dispute
holding
here.
any foul that initiates
Yes.
outside the box and continues till the box will be punished with a penalty.
But
I think you were still holding him.
But we're not disputing that the law exists.
Right.
The law is clear.
Yeah.
It's like the handball law now that's been readjusted and tweaked and whatever.
Right.
It's clear, but it's still open to interpretation. That's why you've seen now, even when you have VAR, you've still had refs in some games where there's inconsistent, where they get it wrong, and then a few hours later, in that very same league, there's another game and a similar situation. It's not given.
Interpreted
You know.
differently.
But the laws are clear.
That we
are
decided to
yeah.
interpret it this way.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's not wrong.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, there it is. I mean, I guess there's no wrong or right. And like you say, up until the referees get help, those kind of calls are going to be as tight as they are. Absolutely. On the side of Bloemfontein Celtic, you made a very good observation, Velile Uguti, like coming into this match, as far as the playing personnel, they tinkered almost to a fault as far as who played that match and who had been playing their previous matches. How did you see that one? You saw that the preparation didn't keep the same players in the cycle to get them ready for this final.
Yeah, I was surprised that they took that decision. In fact, that was one of the things when they went to play away, I thought maybe the thinking is for the other players, because remember before they played the first leg in the CAF Confed, they played against Leopards and they beat them at home. But the squad that played against Leopards was not the squad that travelled to DRC.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, maybe they want to use the core to play here in the
French
second
players
leg.
go that
But I was
side.
surprised that even in the second leg, they and remember even their game midweek was postponed. Still, they wouldn't play, and I was like, now I don't understand because it also meant that the core team, would go to the final without having played in 2 weeks, and at that time, Pirates played 2 matches,
Sure.
180 minutes of football action. You understand? And if you check the starting lineup of Pirates, it was unchanged from the team that started against Cape Town City. So in terms of the legs didn't have action. You know, and I think this is where sometimes, in terms of the expertise now, you can see how these decisions. It's a pity because I missed their pre-match presser, but I attended the Pirates one, and I asked the Pirates coach Zimbabwe about this thing of Celtic, because and he did indicate, in fact, to say, you know what, he's not going to talk much about Celtic, but they've done their preparation and they know what to do against Celtic. And I can tell you, because you could see the intensity of Celtic's play is not the play that we know.
Right.
You know, especially in the second half, you could see that the legs are not there the way that you are used to seeing them. You know Celtic, even the coach, in fact, I think in the post-match presser, he was talking about as soon as Celtic scored the goal, they were no longer playing. They were just hoofing the ball forward. That is not the Celtic.
He said, yeah, they didn't play like they were themselves.
Exactly.
But Shuaib, you having been someone inside, or the most recent to be inside a club from all of us here, me many years ago, what do you make of that decision, though? I mean, you know, can you understand how they kind of arrived at trying to maybe keep some of the players happy? I don't know. I'm trying to understand why Mr. Maduka would have gone with that approach, where it would make sense just to play those players, give them game time so that they, you know, feel they've hit the peak just in time for that final. But
yeah,
what was he thinking?
For me, I think he was just maybe a little bit too nervous. He was wary and too nervous of playing his original team, maybe worried about injuries. You must also remember that they've got a fairly smaller squad when it comes to the core players.
Right.
And I think maybe that could have been his thinking behind it. But like Velile is saying, it's mostly to do with inexperience, because you're playing once a week. So that is what you need. You need that continuity going forward and preparing your team. But now if you're thinking so far ahead, now that is what he did. He just thought too far ahead. He thought, hey, 3 games from now I'm playing a final. You can't do that as a head coach. And also then his fitness coach has to also be in question here. He should be telling the coach or advising the coach that they need these games to get confidence, to iron out a few things. And I think that is probably just lack of expertise, lack of experience in the coaching department preparing for cup finals.
Okay, well, there we go. I guess it's a lesson learned for the coach and his technical team now. Hopefully they'll be in another situation where they can maybe utilize the opportunity of being in a final a lot better. We're going to take a short little break, after which we continue. Send in those tweets at hashtag of MNF on Soweto TV. Samoya. Welcome back. It's MNF on Soweto TV. Put a hashtag, get in touch with it. Apparently, so just to give you a bit of a heads up as to what's happening with the president's speech. But yeah, which means you'll have plenty of time to go back onto our YouTube and look back on our episodes, okay? Even on New Year's Eve.
Bye-bye groove.
Yeah, bye-bye groove.
Okay, to some degree.
But let's then focus on some of the big news from today. Benni is back, and he's back with a very ambitious bunch of people at his back. He was unveiled today as the new coach of Usutu.
There can only be one head coach for AmaZulu, and we have chosen that head coach.
First of all, I would, have to give a big thanks to the chairman. When I had my first conversation with the chairman, and he explained to me he didn't need to take a lot of convincing for me to want to get involved, to be on board on the project, because somebody that speaks to you about wanting to change, not the football players' lives that's playing at the club at this moment in time, but the ones to come. I'm going to have that opportunity now at AmaZulu to give those young players that aspiration to think that, here's a guy who believes in young players, who would give young players an opportunity. My baby years is over. I've done my baby steps. I'm able to, I've learned how to walk when I got to opportunity in the Cape. Now I'm ready to race Usain Bolt. I'm ready for the world champions 100 meters, and I think with the players that AmaZulu has, I can't see why I can't run that race and even aim for top spot. We speak the same language already. You know, everybody knows what's expected from them. Everybody knows what we have to do to get to the goal. Obviously, I will use my experiences that I've gained from my journey as a player and as a coach as well. The signings that was made could have even come from me. So that is there, and it can only grow from there.
Well, there you have it. It's one of the worst kept secrets. I mean, we're already speaking about it last week as to he's probably going to be the man who takes over. And there he is, unveiled in Joburg, where his new boss has most of his interests. But there's a lot more media and a lot more hype. We're the hype capital of the country. And so I guess the perfect venue for that kind of announcement.
No, you see this big grin on my face because like we were saying, the brand alignment there, it just works. I mean, Benni unale that thing, you know. I just hope it works out for Kochi, you know. Been a year out in the, not really the wilderness, but,
right, but more in his education, but not
without being attached to any club. Obviously, COVID and lockdown, so things couldn't move quickly. You can't have a player with his experience, his background, his rich history, and also what he done at Cape Town City. Before parting ways with the club, sit around and be kicking his heels at home. You know, he needs to be working. He needs to be in the dugout. Giving his knowledge to the younger players and even the older players. And he's the first one to say that he's still learning as well, and he could learn a lot from the team that's been assembled by President Sandile Zungu as well. So I think I'm hoping it really works out. For Benni and the Zungu family as well, because the way in which they've gone about reviving AmaZulu is just easy on the eye.
I mean, Stavej Unelak, Benni, when it comes to ambitious owners, John Committees, he gets the Cape Town City project, and then Mr. Zungu comes in here now to offer him an opportunity to lead this revolution at AmaZulu.
But I think it also talks to the stage of the man, if you look at Benni, arguably the best export of South African football in post 1992, since our return to international football, and also how he started his coaching career. He did all his badges, culminating with the biggest one, the UEFA Pro license.
He's exactly what we...
From CAF D to Pro license. You know what I mean?
From where to where? CAF where?
We don't repeat. We don't repeat.
That's why people get it away.
Yeah. So when you look at this, and also as Mazi is also saying, in terms of brand alignment as well. I remember at Safja we had almost a 2-hour-long interview with Benni, where he was talking about his next club, how that club should be in terms of the profile. And at that time, AmaZulu were not fitting that profile.
Right.
But after a few weeks, Abo Sengwayo having taken over the club in terms of the profile, it's exactly matching the profile Benni was talking about.
Right.
There are a lot of things that AmaZulu are doing behind the scenes that are not out there. If you look at how they are improving their sports science department and all those things, and you look at how even the branding wise, how aggressively they are going out, and they now have Benni McCarthy,
right? The final piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. I mean, in the press conference today, he was talking about how he was looking forward to working with the late Anele Ngcoka. So it tells you. And also you look at the players that he's going to find there. Some of them have been his teammates at Bafana. I mean, we're talking about Majoro. He played with Majoro at Pirates. He played with Shaba at Bafana. He played with Marcelela at Bafana as well.
Coached him at City as well.
Well, I'm coming to that. That.
So for me, if you look at the situation that Benni is finding himself there at this brand that is being revived, a strong brand, AmaZulu, but will equally agree with me that Benni on his own
It's a strong brand.
also a strong brand.
For sure.
And here it's a win-win situation on and off the field, because this AmaZulu team is not just about on the field only. It's
Right.
about off the field as well.
Shuaib, I mean, to that point, I'm sure the players will have a sense of, okay, great, we've got a great guy here who has gone about getting his badges the right way. He's got the experience. He's been here before. You were coached by him. What can they expect from Benni? I mean, is he someone who, when the going gets tough, will he be okay with the players, or is he someone that ventilates that kind of thing, then, runs the risk of seeing, the other side of the coach that, forces players to have a bad reaction sometimes? Or do you think holistically they've got the right guy?
No, they definitely have the right guy. When both my journalists, so we are talking about good brand management and with a big ambitious owner coming in with a big brand of a coach and brand players as well. What's this Shabalala, and Mamela as well. The big. But to answer that question, I think the media has seen it in post-match interviews. He has identified certain players that have played bad in certain games, and have, to a certain degree, the last 2-3 months at City, there was that, and then there was also the indication of maybe people upstairs was also trying to intervene with the team. So he does vent in that way.
So he will wear his heart on his sleeve.
He will. He's a I want to win at all costs type of coach. And there's a lot of positives. He's produced good players. Tariq Phillips, Craig Martin, Shane Roberts. There's quite a few. Nodada is excelled into Bafana setup. So he's going to bring that.
Links became a better player under him.
Kermit was rejuvenated.
There's a lot of players that was also rejuvenated. So he can bring that out of players as well. I think it's not going to be a challenge, but I think what is more exciting for him is maybe a little different type of culture.
Yes.
Because in Durban and KZN is a different culture to Cape Town, where the players that I've just mentioned now is a lot of Cape Townian players, so he can relate to them. But I'm not saying this is a challenge. I think he's excited for it because this is the type of coach Benni is.
Right, but it is a new dynamic.
It's going to be a new and different dynamic, which is exciting for him. And that is where we will also see him showing how he diversifies as a coach.
Right.
And he showed that I'm a little bit of a variety of a coach. I'm not just going to do well in Cape Town with people that I can relate with. I can now do well. So that challenge is what is going to drive him to want to do well.
And this is where now the experience of the initial team over the years, working with players from KZN, because that's a brief discussion we had with him after the announcement today. Some of the players he's worked with from that side, the likes of Bele, the likes of Ri, he was also mentioning OJ as well, and these are players that he's worked with in the dressing room. I was also talking to a colleague today. He was also mentioning how demanding Benni was in the dressing room, as a teammate, so that experience, even though he goes to KZN to work there for the first time, but the experience of a footballer who comes from that part of the land, because one of the things he kept on emphasizing today in the chairman, Mr. Sandile Zungu, selling the project to him, was also now to get the youngsters coming out of that academy to be in a world-class mode, and now this is where it's going to be interesting.
And who better than the guy who got
just
his
put him
debut
on
when he
the
was 17,
youngsters
exactly.
Okay, there we have it. I mean, it's exciting times. If you're an AmaZulu fan, I mean, the pieces of the puzzle have been coming together, but you were just wondering if they're going to get that crowning piece of the puzzle, and it's happened today with Benni McCarthy being installed as the new head coach. PSL and all things under the moon after this break. Welcome back. It's Monday Night Football. As buya ngama tweet la, we got one for our friend Mazet. First up, MTN8 champ, new profound. Truth be told, Super Journal, awithandi Orlando Pirates, and you don't even try and hide it. When last was your argument ever on the side of that team and not against them? Uchi, that foul on Loch was supposed to be what? Was supposed to be what?
You can tell even the sign is wrong.
Busted.
That's funny. That's funny.
There we
that's
go.
funny.
But he says also with Benni coaching AmaZulu, I'm sure Mark Mayambela could be marshalling that midfield soon. You guys have kind of alluded to the fact that, of course, he revives careers. And then this one from Melusi, also come back to YouTube Live, gents. That's where we started, delayed uploads, but top-notch analysis. But, you know, the trappings of growing mean that we're all over the place. But you can find us here, now with YouTube. Okay, let's talk about the story of Samir Nurkovic.
Yeah.
A lot of people were panicking because, you know, Gavin comes out and says, yeah, I know this guy's been ready for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Everyone's thinking, well, if he's been ready, why has he not been playing? Thinking that maybe it's because his head has been turned. But you have a pretty simple and straightforward explanation for this.
Yeah, look, first of all, that was a PR nightmare, what the coach did last week. Because 2 days before, Chiefs said the guy had just started training on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, the coach said, no, this guy's been training for 2 weeks. So I can't imagine what was going on in the media department at Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah.
But look, the issue was that the player wanted improved terms, you know, and he was in discussion with the clubs over new terms. I mean, there's a story today on Kickoff that you know, he's now reached an agreement with the club over an improved contract.
Right.
Because remember, Samir had been, had quite a number of potential suitors. I'm told maybe close to 7, but only 2 made an official offer, tabled offers to Kaizer Chiefs, Kuwait and Aba FC in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Al-Ahly keen, but from what I know, unless Velile knows different as well, but from what I know, Al-Ahly never tabled an offer. You know, 2 offers came in. Chiefs also, had been adamant that the player is going nowhere. He's a key asset, top goal scorer in his debut season.
Yeah.
And because of the FIFA ban, as we know now, well documented, they cannot release him. But the player's head had been turned because he was being offered telephone numbers. You can imagine when you have an offer from Saudi Arabia in the Gulf region, you just know. You know, just ask Coach Pito about having offers from the Gulf region and in North Africa as well. You know, Tulani Serero can testify. Left, the Dutch Eredivisie to go to the Gulf region
for the last payday.
The last payday of his contract as a professional. So Samir has had his head turned, but it looks like it's settled now with new terms being agreed.
Okay, Billy, I mean, can you understand the player's position? You come into a team, you pretty much carry it throughout the season. There's people on the team getting paid more than you, who aren't playing better than you, and at some point are getting paid more and not even playing at all. Do you think he was well within his rights to kind of say, Angenzi next until I get better terms?
I remember our first interview with him, his first interview in South Africa last year. When he joined, he did say that even before coming to South Africa, he had offers from the Gulf region. And then he came to South Africa and made an immediate impression in a league with a higher profile, you know. So this then meant that some of those clubs, which have already identified him,
for sure,
in terms of scouting him, now they were convinced that he's the real deal.
Meaning his value would now just go up.
Yes. So it was not just based on the performance only here. They had been following him, but his performance now, it pushed them. But also for Chiefs, in terms of tying him down now, it also doesn't mean that they are just doing this because they want to make sure that they keep him. They want to also have a hold on him.
For sure.
You know, buying chips now. So now
bargaining chips.
Bargaining chips as
yes,
well.
yes. To say this is a player who's
worth
left
this
with
much.
What is worth this much? Is left with 5 years here. So, because I understand that initially I think they were also looking for something between 1.5 USD to 2M USD, and which is what is being offered most of the time from those leagues, you know. But also when you look at Al Ahly, my understanding with the Al Ahly offer was that Al Ahly never put in an official offer, but there were agents who were purporting that they were representing Al Ahly, and they were given the valuation of the club, but they never came back. And this was long before even Coach Pitso got there. But I since understand that some people sounded it out because obviously Coach Pitso was coaching here in the PSL and he knows Nurkovic, you know. If you look at what Nurkovic Saga brought it's no different to the issue of Sereno.
For sure.
You know,
and so Chiefs are responding like Sundowns by tying him to a long-term deal.
yeah, but
just to
also,
make things-
in the other thing is the foreign players, especially those who come from outside Africa,
Yeah.
who play here, they have no loyalty issues.
They are mercenaries.
Yes,
They
yes.
are
They are
mercenaries.
chasing the numbers.
No,
so
sure.
as
Sure.
Mazola says, the boy, his head was turned by the numbers. There were some telephone numbers that he saw on that offer, but I think the way that Chiefs has gone about it is the right way. And the fact that Chiefs had even secured one, if not two, potential replacements,
Yeah.
only for the case Ben
To do a number on
appeal
them.
Yeah.
to be
Bradley
unsuccessful.
Grobler was incoming.
Exactly.
Okay. But I mean, Shuaib, as a player, as you know, we mentioned this mercenary mentality. Do you sometimes understand that? Listen, it's a short career. I've come here to put myself on the stage. I've done that with a strong season. I either need to move somewhere where I'm going to get paid more or get paid more here.
Yes, I think we think it's only the other African countries players that use this as a stepping stone, because the PSL is a good stepping stone because we are televised. There's a lot of money being pumped into it, so they use it as a stepping stone. But the players from Scandinavian countries also do it, and I think this now is the perfect scenario where you look. Chiefs tied him down using that as a bargaining chip, but it's also now for him to excel this season.
Yeah.
So then he knows then he can go, because he's now at his peak at the moment, and he
Sure.
needs that last payday. And with the numbers that Mazola is talking about, he needs to push to get the numbers, because he's definitely not getting it at Chiefs now.
Right.
So what he needs to know is he's getting good money now, but he needs to give his 13, 14, 15 goals again for either this season or the following season.
Yeah.
To get that big contract again.
Right.
So it's kind of it's a twofold.
They've kind of forced him to perform,
Yes.
because it's
Yes.
saying, okay, now if you go show these people who want you what you're capable of, and if you can do it
Exactly.
again.
Yeah, and I think he comes for me at the right time. As I hear that he could be on the bench tomorrow.
Yeah.
He comes at the right time. If he can help Chiefs to get to the group stages of the CAF Champions League, a place they've never been. CAF Champions League gets to be broadcast all over the world,
Sure.
especially in the Gulf region,
Yeah.
in other parts of Asia, and also in Europe, especially around France and all those countries. And that's the market where he also wants to go.
Right.
You know, so he gets to the group stages and he plays. I can tell you, Chiefs, all they're doing with this is to make sure that by the time they get to the next window, because they
Where
will
they
get
can-
their targets
yeah.
in the next window, they'll have the replacement.
Right.
You know, and
But drive the value up in the meantime.
Chiefs getting over 20 million for a player they got for free.
Yeah.
That's good business.
No, for sure. That'll be very good business. Let's see how this one pans out. But I'm sure Amakosi Senjabulile ngoba he's back in the mix is Samir Nurkovic. Now, at the weekend, there was also celebrations for Mamelodi Sundowns, 50 years. And some would, cynically say that maybe it was also a big campaign, event.
Sure.
The
watched
likes
it.
of the
I
people that were there. Siaka Tiene
Yeah.
was there. There was El Haji Diouf. There was Samuel Eto'o. Only one of those three players I've mentioned played for Sundowns. So
Kamza, that was not a Mamelodi Sundowns 50th celebration. That
What
was
was?
a CAF president campaign. From the little I watched,
Yeah.
I didn't watch the entire thing, but from the little I watched Samuel Eto'o, I watched El Haji Diouf, I watched...
Pinnick was there as
I
well?
watched Amaju Pinnick, I watched Denny Jordan. Denny Jordan's speech was all about how, how CAF can compete with UEFA or, make the money that's being made overseas so that it becomes this big brand. How we can, all the things that you think are the mandates or the manifesto of a would-be CAF president.
Right.
So, yeah, yes, and then you squeeze in celebrations about the 50th year. Or
But
whatever.
why are we hearing manifestos from about Denny Jordan and not Mr. Motsepe himself? We have not heard.
I still don't
what his-
understand. That's
I
so
think
bizarre.
I think that's what most people around the continent are asking now.
Yeah.
And justifiably so. Because if you look at all the other candidates, they've came out publicly.
Yeah.
They've addressed press conferences. They are releasing statements. They are doing interviews.
He's like the reluctant president almost.
But with Patrice Motsepe, you have to understand that he's a person who, for me, I don't even think he's got a good background of having been to the NSL BOG. You understand? To understand the day-to-day running of the game,
Right.
Which is partly a requirement of what is needed to be a CAF president. You understand? So it's important that maybe he comes out. But we did ask SAFA president about this, and he was saying they are moving. You know, remember the man has got a private jet. They are moving for this shandies that was happening over the weekend. There were, I think, more than 8 FA presidents from around the continent, and not just from
not from
the COSAFA region.
COSAFA
From I know that there was someone from Benni, from East Africa as well. So you can see their movements behind the scenes. In fact, the way that Motsepe is a threat, I understand that there are 2 other candidates who want to collaborate, to come together and counter him. You understand? Because that's how powerful this thing is going to turn out now. I was sitting with some friends who came from outside.
Until 3 in the morning.
Yeah. You know, so I understand what's happening, but I've seen CAF elections campaigns before.
Right.
And I'm not entirely convinced
By this one.
that it's moving in the right way. I still have to be convinced because
I think,
as members
I
of the
think
local media,
all
we
in
know
the same
very
boat,
little. We know very little
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
this campaign. You understand? And sometimes I hear colleagues from outside saying to us, "This South African campaign." I said, "Wait, Chief." You people know more about this campaign than we know.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think these are some of the things that you have to get the whole nation.
Yeah.
And when I mean the nation, I mean people who matter and who understand African football better.
Right.
You understand?
Right. Yeah.
Because I cannot be called by a station on the continent to talk about the campaign and I've got nothing to say.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's so odd also that someone who's, so meticulous in terms of business planning and whatever, who leads the way, in terms of, you talk about businessmen around the world on the continent.
Yeah.
You mentioned his name is thrown
He's a
in
front
there.
runner.
He's a front runner, exactly. But the way he's handling this, almost like he's a rookie to some degree.
Or reluctant.
Or
almost. Like
either he's being exposed for being a rookie in how he's handling this, because in fact obviously he is, because he's never been at this stage of football administration, or
He's a mastermind.
he's reluctant and there's someone else pulling the strings. At least that's the impression that he's giving all of us, because Velile is saying,
He's a mastermind.
like Velile, that too, Velile is saying, people outside the continent know more about this entire campaign than we do. And we are here.
For sure.
And we've never heard from Patrice Motsepe.
No, you're right. We're running out of time.
Yes.
I want to congratulate one of our own, Ulukolo September. He's just been appointed to go work at CAF. I know he's a colleague of yours and very close, your homie. I want to talk about that because we discuss black excellence a lot and it comes out of your lips a lot. So let's quickly, what's he going to go do there?
Yeah, look, this one is very big, I have to say, because I think it's for the first time in a very long time, I think since our return in international football, that an administrator goes to be part of CAF management. Yes, there have been before politicians who've been elected to positions, but to go to have that administrative role, this is something totally different.
Right.
So he's joining CAF as the head of media and operations.
Okay.
It's a position that was held by, I think, Mohamed Tabet. Tabet is an Egyptian and who is now going to be head of media at FIFA.
Okay.
So you can see how big the position is.
Yeah, for sure.
And Tabet himself is also very close to Lux.
Okay.
They've worked together on a number of occasions. But look, Lux's profile, even before coming to PSL, he was coming from FIFA.
Right, of course.
Having been a journalist before going to FIFA. So this is a big jump, but also it's a stamp of approval for football administration in South Africa. He comes from one of the biggest leagues on the continent.
Sure.
To go and work for CAF. It's a natural progression.
I hear you.
That is supposed to be there. And I think we'll hopefully have him on this platform.
Let's hope.
And hear from him.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Folks, we've run out of time, but before I leave, Shuaib, 6 times 3.
18.
There
this
we
time
go.
around.
Okay, cool. Just had to let you guys know because some of you think you know better. But anyway, gents, thank you for your time tonight. We'll catch you in a week. MTN8 on Soweto TV. It's over. Catch you later.